I never imagined that by the time I turned 25, I'd feel like I was drowning in bills, caught in this endless cycle where no matter how hard I work, I'm always just one paycheck away from disaster. It's like living in a world designed to push you down, to keep you hustling just to survive instead of thrive. I want to tell you what that's really like, the pressure, the constant stress, and the quiet hope that somehow things will get better, even when every sign says otherwise. I grew up believing that if you worked hard and made smart choices, you could build a stable life. My parents worked 2 jobs each to keep us afloat, and they always told me to get a good education, find a steady job, and don't spend beyond my means. I did all that. Graduated college with a decent degree, landed a job in my field, and thought I'd be on the path to independence. But the reality? It's nothing like the stories they told me. The economy today is brutal. Rent goes up every year, sometimes by hundreds of dollars, while my paycheck barely nudges forward. Grocery prices? They're climbing so fast I've stopped buying fresh fruit as much because it feels like a luxury. Utilities, transport, phone bills, they all chip away at my monthly budget. And then there's the student loan debt, like a shadow I carry everywhere I go, quietly growing, waiting to pull me under if I slip. Every day, I'm faced with a series of tiny, painful decisions. Do I buy the bus ticket or skip it and walk, even when it means getting soaked in the rain? Should I cook at home tonight or grab something cheap and quick, knowing it's probably less healthy? Do I turn on the heater a little less and shiver through the night, or wear another layer even though it makes sleeping uncomfortable? These decisions might seem small, but stacked together, they drain not just my bank account but my spirit. Sometimes, I try to calculate if I'm actually making progress. Spoiler, I'm not. The rising costs eat into any raises or bonuses I get. It's like being on a treadmill set to a speed that keeps increasing. No matter how fast I run, the scenery never changes, and I'm stuck in place. I feel trapped in this system where the rules seem rigged against me. It's exhausting and humiliating in a way that's hard to explain to people who aren't living it. The emotional toll is brutal. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, trying to plan out the next few weeks. What bills must be paid first? How much can I set aside, if any, for emergencies? What if the car breaks down or I get sick? The anxiety is a constant hum in the background of my mind, a reminder that one unexpected expense could wipe me out. It's hard to feel secure or hopeful when your whole foundation feels so fragile. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, just once, to see something new, to breathe a different air and step outside the constant stress. I wanted to move out of my tiny apartment into a place with sunlight and space, where I could maybe have a plant or two and not feel like I'm living in a box. I wanted to save for a future, to think about retirement or buying a home, but those feel like fantasies now. Instead, I'm just trying to hold on to the present. Coping is a daily practice of self-talk and small rituals. I've started journaling, writing down my worries and small victories, because putting feelings into words helps me feel less alone. I call my best friend almost every night, even if it's just to vent or laugh about something silly. I try to celebrate little wins, like managing to cook a decent meal on a tight budget, or finding a free community event that lifts my mood. These moments remind me that I'm still me, even when life feels like it's about survival. But there's also a quiet shame that I wrestle with. It's not easy to admit how hard things are when everyone around me seems to be doing okay. I don't want to be seen as weak or incapable. Sometimes, I mask it with humor or sarcasm, trying to lighten the load. Other times, I withdraw because the weight of it all feels too heavy to share. I worry about being judged for struggling with what should be normal adult responsibilities. Despite all this, I haven't given up hope. Deep down, I believe change is possible, even if it's slow. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance or how well I navigate the system. I dream about a time when money isn't the constant source of stress, when I can focus on creating, learning, and connecting without counting every cent. I hope for a future where my work feels rewarding not just financially but emotionally, and where I can finally breathe a little easier. For now, I take it one day at a time. Some days, that feels like barely enough. But even in the struggle, I try to find moments of light, a good song, a friend's laugh, a quiet sunset. They keep me grounded, remind me I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming. And maybe that's enough to hold on to until things change. This is what living with ongoing financial pressure feels like, a mix of exhaustion, resilience, fear, and hope. It's not just about money, it's about how that pressure seeps into every part of life, shaping who you are and who you want to be. Sharing this story is my way of saying, I'm here, I'm struggling, but I'm still trying. And maybe if we listen, understand, and support each other, we can find a way out together. That's my truth. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in a cycle that feels endless, like running on a treadmill that only speeds up. I'm 26, working full-time, doing everything I'm supposed to do, pay rent on time, keep up with my bills, try to save a little if I can. But every month it feels like the bills stretch further than my paycheck can reach. The cost of living creeps up faster than I can adjust. Rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, even my phone plan, I keep chopping things down to the bare minimum, but it never feels like enough. Some mornings I wake up with this knot in my stomach, a dull, heavy weight that follows me through the day. It's this constant pressure, the awareness that a single unexpected expense could send me tumbling. When my car started making that rattling noise, I didn't take it to the shop right away. I can't afford to fix it, not unless it breaks down completely. I patch it up with duct tape and hope for the best. Every time I hear that weird noise, I feel that old familiar panic creep back. How much will it cost? Will I be able to manage it? Money wasn't always this scary. When I was a kid, I didn't have to think about any of this. My parents managed the bills, and I could dream about the future without the looming shadow of how am I going to pay for this? But now, with student loans and rent and the rising prices of everything, it feels like I'm swimming against a current that just keeps getting stronger. I remember sitting down with my bank app one night, staring at the numbers until my eyes blurred. Every dollar accounted for rent, food, phone, transportation. Even with careful budgeting, I'm left with almost nothing. I keep telling myself it's temporary, that I'll get a raise, find a better job, or save enough to breathe easier. But deep down, I'm scared it's not temporary. The economy feels so fragile, and I'm just a small piece caught in the gears. This constant balancing act affects everything. I say no to plans with friends because even a night out feels like a luxury I can't afford. I skip meals sometimes or choose cheaper, less nutritious food because it fits my budget better. I avoid doctor appointments and anything that could come with a surprise bill. The small sacrifices add up to a creeping loneliness and a quiet resignation. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The stress seeps into my relationships, into how I see myself. There are days when I wonder if I'm failing somehow, if I'm not doing enough, or if the system itself is just designed to keep people like me trapped. It's hard not to feel invisible or powerless when you're barely keeping your head above water and watching your efforts erode against a tide of inflation and rising expenses. But I still hold on to some hope. I remind myself of the dreams I put on hold, not because I don't want them, but because I can't afford to chase them right now. I wanted to travel, to take that art class, to maybe start my own small business someday. For now, those dreams feel like distant islands, just out of reach. Sometimes, I imagine what it would be like to break free, to have enough stability to think beyond survival. To cope, I cling to the small things, music, late-night walks, reading books I borrow from the library instead of buying. I write sometimes, spilling out the frustrations and fears, trying to make sense of it all. And I lean on the few close friends who understand, even if they don't fully share my experience. Living like this has changed me. It's made me more careful, more guarded, but also more determined. I want to believe there's a way out, that I can build a future where I'm not constantly chasing dollars just to stay afloat. It's hard to see that future clearly when the present feels so overwhelming, but maybe that's why I hold on to hope so fiercely. I guess what I want people to understand is this: financial pressure isn't just numbers on a page. It's a daily grind that shapes who I am and how I live. It's the weight of postponed dreams and the quiet fear of what happens if one thing breaks. But it's also the stubborn spark of resilience that keeps me trying, hoping, and moving forward, even when the system seems stacked against me. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm constantly treading water but sinking anyway. Each morning, I wake up with a kind of heavy tiredness that isn't just from sleep deprivation. It's the weight of knowing the bills are piling up, the rent's due soon, and my paycheck, which feels smaller every month, won't stretch far enough. It's like living in a house where the floorboards creak louder and louder, but no matter how hard I stomp or jump, the cracks just get wider. When I was a kid, I had dreams that felt reachable. I wanted to travel, maybe start a small business someday, learn photography seriously. I imagined freedom, the kind where money isn't this constant shadow lurking behind every choice. But growing up in the economic reality of now, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but out of grasp. The thing is, I'm not living extravagantly or wasting money. My daily routine is stripped down to essentials: a modest apartment in a neighborhood that's just about affordable, meals cooked mostly at home, and a second-hand bike I use to avoid public transport costs. But even with all those sacrifices, expenses keep climbing faster than my income. Rent creeps up each year, groceries cost more, utilities spike, and then there are unexpected costs: a broken phone screen, a dentist visit, that crush any hope of saving. It's maddening. I watch the news about inflation, rising interest rates, and the housing market with a sense of helplessness. It feels like the system is built to keep people like me in place, working harder but never advancing, earning just enough to stay afloat but never to build a safety net. I sometimes wonder if the system is designed to trap us, to make us feel like if we just try harder or budget better, we'll succeed. But the truth is, the game keeps changing, the rules keep shifting, and the goalposts keep moving further away. Every choice is a balancing act, a compromise. Do I spend on groceries now, or put something aside for a prescription refill next month? Should I take that freelance gig with irregular pay, or stick to the stable but low-paying job? Can I afford to see a therapist, even though my mental health feels like it's fraying at the edges? Most days, the answer is no. I tell myself it's temporary, that one day, maybe, things will get better, but that day feels more like a mirage than a promise. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant undercurrent of anxiety that gnaws at me. I try to push it down, distract myself with books or music or a walk in the park, but it's always there, lurking in the background. Some nights, I lie awake, heart racing, calculating how long my savings will last if something unexpected happens. It's hard to feel hopeful when the future looks like a series of just getting by days. What hurts the most, though, is the loneliness of it. Friends talk about vacations, buying cars, or upgrading apartments, and I smile and nod, but inside I feel a pang of isolation. It's like we're living in parallel worlds, some where money is a tool for freedom, and mine where it's a chain. I'm ashamed to admit how often I hide my struggles, afraid people will think I'm irresponsible or not trying hard enough. But the truth is, I'm exhausted from trying. I'm tired of constantly being behind. To cope, I've started small rituals that give me a little control, tracking every penny I spend, setting tiny savings goals, cooking recipes that stretch ingredients, or journaling my thoughts to release the pressure inside. I've learned to ask for help, even if it's just a friend listening, and to find joy in simple things: a good book, a sunset, a moment of laughter. Those moments remind me that I'm still here, still fighting. I hold on to the hope that this isn't forever. That maybe, with persistence, things will change. That maybe, someday, I'll be able to afford to take that photography class, or save enough for a trip. But I also know that hope isn't enough. I need systemic change, a society that values people over profits, that doesn't punish those who start with less, that offers real support, not just platitudes. For now, I'm learning to live with this tension, between dreams and reality, between fear and hope, between feeling trapped and finding small freedoms. It's not the life I imagined, but it's the one I'm living. And somehow, that means it's worth fighting for. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in a loop I can't break free from. It's like every day, I wake up and already know I'm going to be running uphill, carrying a weight that just gets heavier with each step. The numbers don't lie. My paycheck hasn't really grown in years, but everything else? Rent, groceries, utilities, they all climb higher, faster, like they're on their own wild ride and I'm just watching from the sidelines, powerless. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of hope and energy. I thought, okay, I'll work hard, save a little, maybe put something away for the future. But that future has been pushed further and further away. It's hard not to feel like the system is set up to keep me here, scrambling for the basics, never quite catching up. It's exhausting. Every day is a balancing act. Do I buy that extra bunch of vegetables to eat healthier, or skip it to make sure I can pay the phone bill? Should I call the doctor for that persistent cough, or hope it goes away so I don't add another expense? Sometimes I wonder if my financial situation makes me less human. Like, the pressure numbs parts of me, I'm constantly calculating, strategizing, but rarely resting. The stress digs in deep, tightening its grip, and on bad days, it feels suffocating. I work a job I like, enough to keep me motivated, but not enough to lift me above the constant worries. It's not just about money, it's the anxiety that lives in the cracks of my daily routine. I find myself avoiding social events because I can't afford to go out, or I'm embarrassed to admit I can't chip in. There's a strange kind of loneliness in that. I watch my friends make plans, travel, buy things I used to dream about, and I feel left behind, even though we're all just trying to live our lives. Bills pile up, and every due date feels like a wave I have to ride without wiping out. I've learned to stretch every dollar, buying generic brands, cooking meals from scratch, hunting for discounts. I even cancel my streaming subscriptions or delay replacing worn-out clothes. But no matter how much I tighten the belt, the gap between what I earn and what I owe keeps widening. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I try to slow down. Sometimes, the nights are the hardest. Lying awake, I wrestle with the what-ifs. What if I lost this job? What if an emergency came up? The thought of unexpected expenses sends a chill down my spine. I try to remind myself that I'm doing what I can, but the pressure wears on me. It chips away at my confidence and sometimes my hope. There are dreams I used to have, traveling the world, going back to school, maybe buying a little apartment of my own someday. Those dreams don't feel like immediate goals anymore. They feel like luxuries, or worse, distant memories of who I wanted to be. For now, I just hope to get through the month without sinking deeper into debt. But amidst all the uncertainty, I hold on to small victories. Like the feeling of relief when I manage to cover all my bills on time, or the quiet satisfaction of cooking a meal on a tight budget that still tastes good. I remind myself that this isn't a failure, it's just a hard phase in life, one that millions are going through. And sometimes, just sometimes, I allow myself to imagine a future where the weight isn't so heavy, where my income grows and I can breathe easier. For now, I'm learning to survive within the system, even if it feels rigged. I'm learning resilience, patience, and the quiet courage to keep moving forward when the path feels impossible. And maybe that's enough, for today. I never thought I'd be writing about money like this, like it's some weight I carry everywhere, in my pocket, in my head, even when I try to sleep. But here I am, a young adult trying to make sense of a world that keeps asking more than I seem able to give. I'm 27. I work a steady job, not glamorous, but steady enough. I'm lucky, I guess. Or maybe I just tell myself that to feel a little better. But no matter how steady my paycheck is, it barely keeps up with the bills that stack up like an endless game of Jenga, except this tower never falls down. It just keeps rising. Every month, I sit down with my laptop and open my bank account, bracing myself. Rent. Utilities. Groceries. Phone bill. Transportation. Student loans that I'm still paying off even though I graduated years ago. I'm careful, always trying to cut corners, clipping coupons, skipping the morning coffee I used to enjoy without a second thought. But the numbers don't add up the way I want them to. The rent alone feels like a punch in the gut. It's like the landlords and the market are in on a secret game I'm not invited to. Every year, the price inches up, sometimes more than my paycheck grows, which is hardly ever. Inflation is just a buzzword until you feel it in your bones, the rising cost of everything, from toothpaste to transportation. I've started riding my bike more, even when the weather turns cruel. It's a small rebellion against a system that seems designed to squeeze every cent from people like me. I want to tell you about the emotional toll, because it's more than just numbers on a screen. It's the gnawing anxiety that never really leaves. The dread that creeps in every time I hear about the latest price hikes, the new fees, the unexpected expenses that pop up like unwelcome guests. When a friend asks to go out for dinner or a movie, I smile and say, maybe next time. But the truth is, I'm not sure when that next time will come. I miss the spontaneity of youth, the freedom to say yes without hesitation. Sometimes, I lie awake at night, running through worst-case scenarios in my mind. What if my car breaks down? What if I lose my job? What if I can't keep up with these payments? The future feels less like a horizon and more like a tightrope stretched over a canyon. One misstep, and everything could fall apart. I've had to put dreams on hold. I wanted to travel, to see places beyond the city skyline I know so well. I dreamed of owning a small apartment, a place I could call truly mine, without worrying about rent hikes or noisy neighbors. I thought about going back to school, maybe even changing careers to something I'm passionate about. But each of those plans now feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's not just about money, it's about freedom, and the lack of it. The freedom to breathe, to live without constant stress, to plan for more than just survival. Sometimes, I catch myself scrolling through social media, looking at friends who seem to have it all figured out, traveling, buying homes, starting families. I try not to compare, but it's hard not to feel like I'm falling behind. Coping has become a balancing act. I talk to close friends who understand, but I'm careful not to burden them too much. I've started journaling, putting my frustrations, hopes, and fears on paper, hoping it lightens the load. I meditate sometimes, trying to find calm in the chaos. And I look for small moments of joy, a good book, a walk in the park, a call with family. These little things remind me there's still beauty outside the financial strain. I want to believe there's a way out. That the economy will shift, that wages will catch up, that one day I'll feel secure enough to stop counting pennies and start building. I hold on to hope because without it, what else is there? This story isn't unique. I know many people feel this pressure, this weight of living in a world where expenses grow faster than income, where every choice feels constrained by money. And yet, we keep going, finding ways to cope, to dream, to survive. So here I am, being honest, vulnerable even, about what it's like to be trapped in this cycle. I don't have all the answers, but I'm still here, still hoping for a day when financial pressure isn't the soundtrack of my life. Because maybe, just maybe, that day is coming. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach, like a dull, constant ache that never quite goes away. It's not the usual stress everyone talks about, not just the typical busy day jitters. It's this heavier thing, a pressure that's been building for years, tightening its grip as the cost of living climbs higher and my paycheck somehow feels smaller. I'm 26, working 2 jobs, but somehow, it never feels like enough. The bills, the rent, the groceries, they keep growing faster than I can earn. It's exhausting. When I was a kid, I dreamed big. I wanted to travel the world, have a home filled with plants and books, maybe start a family someday. Those dreams felt so simple then, like they were just waiting for me to reach out and grab them. But now? They feel like distant stars, bright and beautiful, but unreachable from where I stand. Every time I try to move closer, the ground shifts, and I'm pushed back. I live in a small apartment in a city where everything costs way more than it should. Rent is the biggest bite out of my budget, and every year, it creeps up a little more. I remember when I first moved in, the landlord promised no hikes for at least a year. That was a lie. Just 3 months later, the rent went up by nearly 10%. It's this sneaky little game that landlords and the market play, and I'm just trying to keep up, but it feels like running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day. Groceries used to be something I enjoyed shopping for, fresh vegetables, a treat here and there, experimenting with recipes. Now, I'm a calculator at the store, counting out every penny, choosing frozen over fresh, skipping snacks, and sometimes going hungry because the money just isn't there. It's humbling and frustrating to feel like food, something so basic, has to be rationed like this. Then there's transportation. My car is old, and every time it breaks down, I'm forced to decide between fixing it or paying rent that month. Public transit helps, but it eats up hours of my day, hours I don't have to spare. It's like every choice I make is a compromise, never a win. Work is a constant source of stress. I do everything I can to be the best at my jobs, hoping for a raise, a promotion, something to break this cycle. But the economy isn't kind. My employers are tightening their belts too, so raises are rare, and bonuses feel like a distant memory. I try to remind myself that having a job is better than none, but it's hard not to feel stuck. Some days, I'm barely holding on emotionally. There's this weight, a quiet desperation, that makes it hard to imagine a better future. My friends have started moving on, buying homes, getting engaged, traveling. I'm happy for them, truly. But I also feel this pang of jealousy and sadness. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if life just dealt me a bad hand. I try to talk about it, but it feels like no one really understands. People say, just save more, or cut back on expenses, but when every dollar is stretched to the limit, those words sound empty. Financial pressure has changed how I see myself. I used to be confident and ambitious, but now, there's this constant undercurrent of fear. Fear that a single unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, a lost paycheck, could unravel everything. It's like walking on a tightrope without a safety net, and it's exhausting to keep the balance every day. I cope the best way I can. I write sometimes, pouring my frustrations onto paper. Music helps, singing out loud in my room like no one's listening. I find little moments of joy in simple things, a coffee with a friend, a walk in the park, a sunset. Those moments remind me that life isn't just about survival, even if it feels like that most days. I've had to postpone so many dreams. Travel is on hold indefinitely. I can't save enough for a down payment on a house. Dating feels complicated when I'm worried about money every second. Even taking a day off for myself feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's painful to give up parts of your life because the system you live in makes it impossible to thrive. Sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet, I let myself imagine a different future, a life where money isn't the barrier to happiness, where I can breathe without the constant squeeze of financial stress. I imagine a job where I'm paid fairly, where I have time to rest and grow. I imagine a home that feels safe and warm, where I'm not counting the days until the next rent hike. I imagine freedom. But then morning comes, and reality presses back in. The bills, the job, the endless cycle. I'm trapped in a system where expenses grow faster than income, where no matter how hard I work, I can't seem to get ahead. It's a slow grind that wears you down. But despite it all, I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who feels stuck under the weight of money that never stretches far enough. It's honest and raw, because financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about the toll it takes on your heart and mind. I don't have all the answers, but I hold on to the hope that one day, the system will shift, and those dreams I had as a kid might come back within reach. Until then, I keep going, one day at a time, trying to find light in the cracks of this hard life. I never thought I'd end up here, feeling like I'm constantly treading water, gasping for air but never quite making it to the surface. I'm in my late 20s now, and if you asked me 5 years ago where I'd be, I probably would have painted a much rosier picture. A stable job, a small apartment I could call my own, maybe even starting to save up for a car or some travel. But reality hit hard, and it's been this ongoing, exhausting tug-of-war with money that feels impossible to win. Every day feels like a balancing act on a thin wire stretched over a deep canyon. On one side, there's my paycheck, never quite enough, barely keeping pace with the essentials. On the other, there's rent, groceries, bills, student loans, transportation, and then all the little things that add up faster than I realize: a prescription here, a broken phone screen there, a car repair that I somehow can't ignore. It's not just the big, obvious expenses, it's the relentless trickle of costs that keeps swelling like a wave that never breaks. The economic environment we're in only makes it worse. Inflation keeps pushing prices up, but wages stay stubbornly flat. I watch news headlines talk about how the economy is recovering, how markets are booming, and how businesses are thriving, but none of that feels real when I'm staring at my bank account, wondering if I can afford to fill my fridge this week. The cost of rent alone is a nightmare. I remember moving into my current apartment 3 years ago when the rent was at least somewhat manageable. Since then, it's climbed steadily. Every renewal feels like a punch to the gut. I consider moving to a cheaper place, but the options are few and far between, and the trade-off often means a longer commute or a neighborhood that feels unsafe. So I stay, paying more every month while sacrificing things I used to take for granted. I've learned to be ruthless with my budget. It's become a kind of constant mental math, calculating and recalculating expenses, cutting back on anything that isn't absolutely necessary. That means no spontaneous dinners out, no new clothes unless something falls apart completely, no weekend getaways with friends. Even small luxuries feel like a betrayal of financial prudence. I've had to give up my gym membership, even though exercise is the one thing that helps me cope with stress. I try to find cheaper alternatives, running outside, home workouts, but it's not the same. The emotional toll is immense, though I try to hide it well. There's this underlying anxiety that wakes me up some nights, a knot of worry tightening in my chest about whether I'll have enough to cover unexpected expenses. I hate feeling like this is all I think about. It's exhausting to live with this constant background noise of financial fear. Sometimes, when I catch myself daydreaming about the future, the dreams feel almost foolish. Owning a home? Traveling abroad? Saving for retirement? Those seem like luxuries for other people, people with financial security, whatever that even means anymore. I feel trapped in a system that seems designed to keep people like me on the edge. The cost of living spirals upward, but wages lag behind, benefits are minimal, and the safety nets feel full of holes. I work hard, 2 jobs at times, but it never seems to add up to more breathing room. It's a frustrating paradox: put in more effort, but get less back. It's disheartening to realize that my personal sacrifices aren't translating into stability. On top of all this, there's a creeping sense of isolation. It's hard to explain to friends or family who don't face the same struggles why I can't join in on social plans or why I'm always turning down invitations. I worry about being judged or misunderstood, like I'm making poor choices rather than just trying to survive. So, I keep quiet about the financial strain, which makes me feel even more alone. Coping has become an art form. I focus on small moments of gratitude, finding joy in a good book, a walk in the park, a homemade meal. I try to maintain a routine that helps me feel grounded, even when the uncertainty feels overwhelming. I also lean on the people who understand, the few close friends who get it without judgment. Sharing my worries with them, even just in brief texts, helps lighten the load. Despite everything, I still hold on to hope, though it's fragile. I dream of a day when I won't have to choose between paying rent and seeing a doctor, when I can save a bit each month without sacrificing essentials. I dream of travel, not because it's extravagant, but because it symbolizes freedom, a break from this cycle of stress. And yes, I dream of a home where I can feel secure, a place that's mine and mine alone. But these dreams have been postponed, again and again, because immediate survival takes precedence. It's a strange kind of patience, born out of necessity rather than optimism. I tell myself to keep going, to keep working, even when it feels pointless. Because what else can I do? Being caught in this financial pressure cooker feels like a slow erosion of hope and energy. It's not just the money, it's the impact on my self-worth, my relationships, my mental health. But even in the darkest moments, there's a flicker of resilience. Maybe one day the system will shift, or maybe I'll find a way out. Until then, I keep fighting, navigating the tightrope, hoping to find solid ground. Some days, it feels like I'm treading water in a stormy sea, and no matter how hard I kick, the waves of bills, rent, and rising prices just keep crashing down on me. I'm 26, working a decent job, but it never feels like enough. It's exhausting. The economic environment we live in today? It's like an invisible weight strapped to my chest, one that tightens a little more every month. I remember when I first moved out on my own, right after college. The idea was exciting: independence, freedom, a fresh start. But the reality hit fast. Rent was already high back then, but manageable if I budgeted carefully. I'd cook at home, skip nights out, and tried to save a little every paycheck. The job paid the bills, and sometimes I'd treat myself to a movie or coffee with friends. It felt tight, but possible. But now? Everything's changed. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up and I can't get off. Rent jumped again this year, groceries keep getting pricier, utilities are a shock every time I open the bill. And don't get me started on the car insurance, healthcare, and other unexpected expenses that pop up like bad surprises. The cost of living rises faster than my paycheck ever can. I got a raise last year, sure, but it barely covered the rent increase. I'm stuck. Some days, the anxiety gnaws at me from morning till night. I wake up already stressed, thinking about how I'll stretch my money this month. It's a pressure that's hard to explain to people who aren't living it. Like, when your friends talk about their weekend trips or new gadgets, you smile and nod, but inside, you're counting every cent in your head. Every choice feels like a trade-off. Want to eat out? That's $15 I could have saved for a phone bill or a doctor's appointment. Need new shoes? Better wait until the old ones fall apart. Dream of a vacation? That's a luxury that's been shelved indefinitely. I feel trapped in this system where expenses keep growing faster than my income. It's a slow, suffocating grind. The money I earn is mostly swallowed by necessities. I want to believe that if I just work harder, budget smarter, I'll eventually get ahead. But after years of this, I'm not so sure. It's like chasing a horizon that keeps moving further away. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if this is the life I'm meant to live, the life where dreams get postponed indefinitely. I had plans once. To travel, maybe live abroad for a year. To take classes for something I'm passionate about. To save up for a place of my own, free from cramped apartments and noisy neighbors. Those dreams feel distant, like they belong to someone else's life, not mine. The weight of financial pressure dulls the excitement, turning hopes into quiet, cautious wishes. But I also try to cope. I find small pockets of joy where I can. A walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, cooking a comforting meal from scratch. I lean on close friends who understand the struggle without judgment. Sometimes I vent, sometimes I cry. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, even if it feels endless. That every month I keep going, I'm building some kind of resilience, even if it's invisible. What keeps me going, I think, is the hope that one day the tides will change. That maybe there's a way out of this relentless cycle. That the system won't keep squeezing me dry, and I'll have space to breathe, to dream, and to live fully. I want to believe that the hard days now will someday lead to better ones, because without that hope, the weight would crush me entirely. For now, I'm just trying to stay afloat, one paycheck, one choice, one day at a time. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd feel this way in my mid-20s, like I'm stuck, sinking slowly under the weight of bills and rising prices while my paycheck barely keeps up. It's this strange, constant pressure that never really lets up. You wake up hoping maybe today things will be easier, but they never are. Every month, every week, even every day feels like a tightrope walk between what I earn and what I owe, with no safety net in sight. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of hope and excitement. I had just landed a decent job, enough to cover rent, groceries, and maybe catch a movie with friends once in a while. But that was years ago now, and since then, it feels like the cost of living has been on a relentless climb. Rent has gone up more than once, groceries have crept higher on every shopping trip, and even little things like public transportation and utilities seem to take a bigger bite out of my wallet each month. Meanwhile, my salary has grown, but it's nowhere near enough to keep pace. Some days, it's hard not to feel like I'm trapped in a system that's designed to keep me running in place. The longer I work, the more my expenses grow, but my income never quite catches up. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I budget carefully, cutting out everything that feels like a luxury, eating out, new clothes, trips back home, but even then, by the time rent, utilities, phone bills, and groceries are paid, there's barely anything left for emergencies or savings. The financial pressure bleeds into every part of my life. I'm constantly anxious, always double-checking my bank balance before buying even the smallest things. There's this gnawing fear that something unexpected, a car repair, a medical bill, or even a gift for a loved one, could completely throw me off balance. So I end up saying no a lot. No to nights out with friends, no to spontaneous weekend plans, no to any expense that isn't absolutely necessary. Sometimes I feel isolated because of it, like I'm missing out on life while everyone else is moving forward. What hurts the most, though, is the dreams I've had to put on hold. I used to imagine traveling, maybe taking a class or two to improve my skills, or even saving for a place of my own someday. But those dreams feel so distant now, like distant stars that shine bright but are impossible to reach. Every dollar I make is swallowed up just keeping the lights on and the roof over my head. Saving for the future feels like an impossible luxury. I try to cope by focusing on the little things I can control. I've learned to cook at home to save money, I've found free ways to entertain myself, like reading or walking in the park, and I try to find moments of gratitude, even when it's hard. I remind myself that I'm doing what I can, and that surviving in this environment is a small victory in itself. But some nights, when the apartment is quiet and the bills pile up on the table, the loneliness and frustration wash over me in waves. I've started thinking more about what I want my life to look like in 5 or 10 years. I want financial stability, not wealth, just enough to feel secure. I want to wake up without the crushing anxiety about money and be able to pursue my passions without constantly counting the cost. I want to travel, learn, maybe even start a family someday without the fear that money will always be the biggest obstacle. Yet, despite it all, there's a stubborn hope inside me. I keep reminding myself that this is just a chapter, not the whole story. Maybe the economic tides will change. Maybe opportunities will come that I haven't seen yet. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. For now, I keep going, one day at a time, trying to hold on to that hope even as the bills keep stacking up, the prices keep rising, and the paycheck stays the same. It's not easy, and sometimes it feels unbearably heavy. But I'm still here, still trying, still dreaming, quietly, stubbornly, fiercely. I never thought I'd be this person, stuck, suffocating, constantly crunching numbers in my head just to get through the week. But here I am, in my mid-20s, caught in this relentless tug-of-war where the cost of living keeps sprinting ahead, and my paycheck barely manages a slow, tired walk behind it. It's exhausting, and some days it feels like I'm sinking in quicksand. Every attempt to climb out only pulls me deeper. I work a steady job. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but steady. And that's the thing, steady doesn't feel like enough anymore. The rent on my tiny apartment has climbed again this year, like clockwork, while my raise was a fraction of that increase. Groceries, utilities, transportation, all inching up, like some invisible hand is tightening a noose around my monthly budget. I try to plan, I try to budget, but the numbers never quite add up. There's always some unexpected expense lurking, a busted phone screen, a doctor's visit, a car repair, that shakes everything. Some nights I sit on my bed and just stare at the ceiling, heart racing, mind spinning through possibilities. How can I get ahead when every dollar earned is already claimed before I even see it? I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but even worse, like I'm perpetually falling behind. Bills stack up, savings stay non-existent, and the pressure builds. It's a heavy weight, one that gnaws at me quietly but persistently. This constant financial strain doesn't just affect my bank account, it eats away at my emotional well-being. Anxiety creeps in like a shadow. Sometimes I find myself waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, worrying about money I don't have. I feel isolated, embarrassed to admit to friends or family how hard it is. I put on a brave face during the day, smile and joke, but inside there's this constant undercurrent of fear and frustration. I've had to make so many sacrifices, too many to count. I remember the dreams I had, traveling to new places, going back to school for a degree I'm passionate about, maybe even buying a home one day. Those dreams feel like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. Instead, I postponed them indefinitely. I can't justify spending on anything that isn't absolutely necessary. No more weekend trips, no more dinners out, no more spontaneous adventures. The future I imagined feels like it's slipping through my fingers. Some days, I cope by burying myself in work. Keeping busy distracts me from the creeping dread. Other times, I find small pockets of relief in simple pleasures, an old book, a walk in the park, a call with a friend who understands. But these moments are fleeting. The financial pressure is always there, like a low hum in the background of my life. It's a strange kind of loneliness, feeling trapped in this system where expenses outpace income. Where every choice is constrained by dollars and cents. I watch news reports about inflation, housing markets, and wages, and it all feels so abstract until it's my reality. I'm not just a statistic, I'm a person with hopes and fears and a burning desire to break free. I wish I could shout out loud about how hard it is, how the weight of this invisible burden makes me question my worth sometimes. But I hold it in, because what else can I do? I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. That resilience is in the small, daily victories, paying a bill on time, making it through another month without going into debt, finding a way to smile despite the stress. Looking ahead, I still hold on to hope. Maybe someday the economy will shift, maybe wages will catch up, maybe I'll find a new path that leads to stability. For now, I'm learning to be patient with myself, to find strength and persistence, and to cherish the little things that bring light into these challenging days. I don't know when the tide will turn, but I keep moving forward, step by cautious step, dreaming quietly of a day when I can finally breathe a little easier. It's been a while since I last felt truly hopeful about money, not the fleeting hope that comes when payday's just around the corner, but a deep, steady hope that things will actually get better. I'm 26 now, working 2 part-time jobs that barely cover rent and bills, and I still feel like I'm drowning in a sea of expenses that grow faster than I can keep up with. Sometimes, I lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is just how life is supposed to be from now on, trapped, scrambling, barely surviving. Growing up, I always imagined I'd have a little more control by the time I was my age. My parents weren't wealthy, but they seemed to manage. When I got my first paycheck, I thought, okay, this is the start. But the cost of everything around me kept climbing. Rent in the city where I live shot up every year. Groceries feel more expensive every time I shop. Utilities, transportation, even the basics like phone and internet bills, they all keep inching higher. But my wages? They don't keep pace. Not even close. Some days, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up the longer I stay on it. No matter how hard I run, I'm not moving forward. I get paid, I pay my rent, my bills, and then there's barely anything left. Maybe $20, sometimes $30, if I'm lucky. And that's supposed to cover food for the week, transportation, and anything unexpected. Spoiler, it never does. That $20 vanishes in 2 or 3 grocery trips, and I'm back to choosing between buying fresh vegetables or canned goods because fresh just costs too much. I try to budget, really. I use apps, spreadsheets, anything to keep track of every penny. But it feels like the system is designed against me. I get a bill, then another, and suddenly I'm juggling due dates and minimum payments, trying not to let any of it slip because the penalties make everything worse. Credit cards aren't an option, they're a trap I'm terrified of falling into. So, I pinch every cent, skip luxuries, and hope for the best. The emotional toll? It's exhausting. There's this constant low-grade anxiety that lives with me all day, every day. Sometimes I feel guilty about it, like I should be stronger or better at managing. But it's not just me, is it? Everyone talks about the rising cost of living, about inflation, and the economic environment, but when you're in it, it feels like a personal failure. Like the world is speeding ahead, and I'm stuck, watching it pass by. I've missed out on so many things. A few years ago, I had dreams of traveling, even just for a short break, to see new places, meet new people, to have experiences that made me feel alive beyond this endless cycle of work and bills. I used to imagine getting a small apartment of my own, with plants by the window and a tiny bookshelf filled with all the books I wanted to read. I pictured weekends spent at coffee shops, meeting friends without the constant calculation of, can I afford this? But those dreams have had to be put on hold, indefinitely. I've said no to invitations to parties, to trips, to even simple dinners out because I know it'll stretch my budget too thin. The social isolation stings, even if I don't always admit it. Sometimes I feel invisible, like the financial pressure is a wall I can't climb over, separating me from the rest of the world. It's hard not to feel ashamed when others talk about their vacations or new gadgets, and I just smile, pretending it doesn't hurt. Coping isn't easy. I lean on music and writing, it's how I escape, even if just for a little while. I write down my frustrations, my fears, my tiny victories when I manage to save a few bucks. Sometimes, I talk to close friends, though I hesitate to share too much because I don't want to be a burden or sound like I'm complaining. I know everyone struggles in their own way. I've learned to find small pockets of joy where I can. Like watching sunsets from the roof of my building, or walking in the park when the weather's nice, or cooking a simple meal that's just good enough. Those moments remind me that life isn't just about money, even if it feels that way sometimes. Looking forward, I try to hold on to hope. I want to believe that with time, things will change. Maybe I'll find a better job, or the cost of living will stabilize. Maybe I'll be able to afford a small vacation someday, or even save enough for a deposit on a place that feels like home. But I know it won't be easy. It never is. For now, I'm learning to be kind to myself. To recognize that surviving this daily grind is a kind of strength, even if it doesn't look like success to the outside world. And to remind myself that feeling trapped doesn't mean I'm broken, it just means the system is broken. One day, I hope to look back and see this period as a chapter, not my whole story. Until then, I keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when the treadmill speeds up. Because that's all I can do. I never thought money would feel like this, like a constant weight pressing down on my chest, squeezing tighter every day. When I graduated college, I was full of hope. I imagined a steady job, maybe a small apartment of my own, weekends filled with friends, and the freedom to travel when I wanted. But reality hit hard and fast, and it's been this ongoing battle ever since. The thing about financial pressure is that it's invisible but all-consuming. No one hands you a manual on how to navigate rent hikes that outpace your raises, or how to stay afloat when utility bills spike unexpectedly. It's this weird, silent anxiety that follows me everywhere, in the grocery store as I scan prices, in conversations when someone suggests going out, even in the quiet moments when I'm alone, staring at my bank account, willing it to stretch just a little further. I work a full-time job that pays just enough to keep the lights on, but barely enough to breathe. Each paycheck feels like a temporary reprieve, a small island of security before the tide of bills and expenses pulls me back under. Rent has become my biggest nightmare. In the past few years, my neighborhood changed. The up-and-coming label-meaning landlords now charge what feels like a fortune for a cramped space with peeling paint and a noisy heater that never works right. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm just throwing money into a black hole. Groceries, transport, health insurance, every cost seems to rise relentlessly. Inflation isn't just a headline for me, it's the reason I've swapped fresh veggies for canned goods, cut my outings from once a week to once a month, and stopped even thinking about a new pair of shoes or that haircut I've been putting off for months. I tell myself it's temporary, but the truth is, it's been this way for so long that I don't remember what easy feels like anymore. The emotional toll is something I didn't fully grasp until recently. There's a dull ache of exhaustion that comes from constantly measuring every decision through a financial lens. It's the sting of missing out, when friends post pictures of weekend getaways or new apartments, and I'm stuck debating whether to skip a meal so I can cover my phone bill. The frustration bubbles under the surface. I work hard, sometimes late into the night, but the system feels rigged. Expenses climb faster than my income ever could, and no matter how much I tighten my belt, it's never quite enough. I've learned to cope in small ways. I keep a budget obsessively now, tracking every cent. I've gotten good at finding discounts and using apps to stretch my dollars. I try to remind myself that this phase won't last forever, but some days it feels like being trapped in quicksand. The harder I struggle, the deeper I sink. Sleep doesn't come easy when you're planning your next paycheck like a survival strategy. The stress leaks into everything: relationships, self-esteem, even my physical health. Dreams I once had now seem distant, almost frivolous. I wanted to travel, to see places beyond my city, to breathe in new air and collect stories. I thought about saving for my own home someday, a place where I could feel secure, where I could build a life without constantly looking over my shoulder at my bank balance. But those dreams have been shelved indefinitely. Instead, I dream of stability, of a paycheck that covers more than just the basics, of a moment when I don't have to count coins or check prices twice. I don't want pity. I don't want to be defined by my struggles. But I want honesty, to say that this financial pressure is real and relentless, that it shapes my days in ways people don't always see. I want to hold on to hope, because giving up feels like losing myself. I believe that someday, with persistence and a bit of luck, things will shift. But until then, I carry this burden quietly, navigating the delicate balance between survival and living, trying to keep my dreams alive even when the world insists they're too expensive to afford. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, like I'm caught in a tide that just keeps pulling me under, no matter how hard I try to swim. It's not one thing that's suffocating me, really. It's everything. The rising rent, the groceries that cost more than they should, the tiny emergencies that somehow find me every month. And the worst part? The paycheck that feels like it's shrinking every time I get it, even though the number on the paper stays the same. I'm 26, working a job that I'm grateful for because so many people don't have one, but it's not enough. Not really. I get paid just enough to cover the basics, barely. Every morning, I wake up already anxious, wondering what bills I can't avoid this month. Electricity? Gas? That phone bill that I've been putting off because it feels like such a luxury to even answer calls sometimes. It's exhausting. Mentally and physically. There's this constant weight pressing down on my chest, the kind that keeps me awake at night. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, my brain racing through all the what-ifs. What if I get sick? What if my car breaks down? What if I lose this job? I can't afford to think about these things, but they invade every corner of my mind. I remember a time not too long ago when I used to dream, really dream. I wanted to travel, to go to art school, maybe start a small business. I had plans for myself that felt alive and exciting. But now those dreams feel like distant memories, locked away behind a door I can't open. The future is something I don't dare look at too closely because it's just a fog of uncertainty. Everyday decisions become a calculus of survival. Do I spend the last bit of money on food or on gas? Can I afford to keep the heat on this month, or will I layer up and risk the cold? Even small things, like grabbing a coffee or buying a book, feel like reckless indulgences. I find myself apologizing for these wants, as if craving a little joy is somehow wrong. Social life? Almost non-existent. It's hard to tell people you're skipping out on dinner or the movies because you can't afford it without feeling embarrassed. Friends invite me out, and I want to say yes, I really do, but then I think about the cost. And I say no. More often than I care to admit. Loneliness creeps in when money disappears. I try to cope the best I can. Sometimes I lose myself in books or music, small escapes that don't cost a dime. I've started walking more, not just to save money on transit but because the rhythm of my steps helps clear my head. There's a tiny comfort in those moments of solitude, even if they're tinged with sadness. I talk about this to almost no one. Who would understand? Who would want to hear that someone my age feels trapped in a system that's designed to keep people like me barely afloat? It feels humiliating sometimes, like a failure. But the truth is, I'm working hard, maybe harder than ever, but the system doesn't care. Inflation rises, rent hikes, stagnant wages, it's like I'm on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while I stay in the same place. I dream of a time when I can breathe without this pressure, when I don't have to calculate every purchase, when I can save even a little bit for myself. To buy a plane ticket without wondering if I'll eat that week. To afford therapy or classes or just a night out without counting every cent. It feels so far away, but I hold on to it. Because hope is all I have sometimes. I know I'm not alone in this. So many people my age are juggling the same impossible math. But that doesn't make it easier. I'm tired. I'm scared. And yet, here I am, still trying. Still pushing through the weight of every rising bill, every unexpected expense. Because what else can I do? Giving up isn't an option. Someday, maybe, this will change. Maybe the system will shift. Maybe I'll find a way out. Until then, I keep moving forward, even when it feels like I'm going nowhere. That's all anyone can do. I never thought financial pressure would feel like a constant weight pressing down on me, like a shadow that follows my every step, whispering reminders of all I don't have and all I'm struggling to keep afloat. But here I am, in my mid-20s, caught in a cycle where my income barely stretches, and my expenses seem to rise no matter how careful I am. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach. It's not exactly anxiety, though it feels close, but more like a dull ache of knowing that today will bring the same tightrope walk of balancing bills, groceries, rent, and the small attempts at a social life. I work a full-time job that pays okay, but not nearly enough to keep up with the rising cost of living. Rent in this city has ballooned past anything I could have predicted when I first moved here, and utilities, transportation, and even food prices keep climbing steadily. It feels like no matter how many extra shifts I pick up or how many hours I add on, I'm always just behind. What's worse is the feeling that this isn't just a temporary problem, this is the environment I've been forced into. The economy isn't just numbers or graphs on a news report, it's my reality. I see it in the grocery store when I hesitate over buying fresh fruit because the price tags make me flinch. I see it when I avoid going out with friends because splitting a bill feels like too much. I see it in my tiny apartment, where I put off fixing the leaky faucet because a plumber feels like a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes, I catch myself dreaming, really dreaming, about what life could be if money wasn't always an obstacle. I imagine having enough to save for a trip somewhere far from here, somewhere that feels like freedom. I imagine buying a decent laptop without stressing over the payment, or even just eating out without calculating every cent first. But then reality snaps back quickly, like a rubber band pulling tight. Those dreams get shelved indefinitely, pushed aside by the weight of overdue bills and the endless needs that never stop multiplying. The worst part is the emotional toll. It's exhausting to constantly calculate, to weigh every decision through the lens of cost. It's lonely, too. Friends don't always understand why I can't join for dinner or why I'm always saying no to plans. They don't see the anxiety that bubbles up when the unexpected happens, a car repair, a medical bill, a surprise expense. It's not just money I'm losing, it's peace of mind, confidence, and sometimes even hope. I've learned to cope in small ways. I journal to empty my mind, hoping that putting words on paper will ease the weight. I've found some solace in small routines, a morning coffee made at home instead of the cafe, or a walk in the park to clear my head when things feel overwhelming. Sometimes, I reach out to close friends, letting them in on the struggle, even though it's hard to admit how much it's affecting me. It helps, even if just a little. But even with these small coping mechanisms, I can't shake the feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while the floor beneath me crumbles. The system around me feels designed to keep me chasing my tail. Expenses grow faster than wages, opportunities for advancement feel limited, and the pressure to just survive each month leaves no room to breathe or plan for the future. I often wonder if I'm alone in this, if everyone around me is feeling the same pressure but just hiding it better. Sometimes, the thought that I'm part of a bigger collective struggle is comforting. It reminds me I'm not failing, just navigating a tough, unfair system. Looking ahead, my dreams have shifted. I no longer think about owning a house or a fancy car, those seem like distant fantasies. Now, my hopes are simpler but just as important: stability, a chance to build savings, and maybe a day when money isn't the first thing on my mind when I wake up. I want to believe there's a way out, but I'm scared the path will be long and uncertain. Sharing this feels vulnerable because it's admitting a struggle that's often invisible and misunderstood. But I think being honest about it is important. Maybe if more people knew what this felt like, we'd push for changes that make life less of a constant financial battle for people like me. For now, I'll keep walking this tightrope, hoping one day the shadow will lift, and my dreams can finally take flight without the weight of money holding me down. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm caught in a constant, suffocating loop where no matter how hard I work, I'm always just barely keeping my head above water. It's this weird mix of exhaustion and helplessness that clings to me every day, and sometimes, I can't help but wonder if things will ever get better or if this is just how life is supposed to be now. When I first graduated from college, I had big dreams. I wanted to travel, maybe start my own little creative business, move to a city where opportunities weren't just whispers on the internet. But those dreams feel like distant echoes now, muffled by the ever-growing pressure of bills, rent, groceries, and student loans. The cost of everything seems to rise faster than my paycheck, like some cruel race where I'm sprinting on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Every morning, I wake up and scroll through my bank app. It's almost a ritual, checking my balance, counting out the days until payday, calculating what I can afford without dipping into the emergency fund I'm desperately trying to build. But more often than not, it's a reminder that I'm juggling expenses that don't wait. Rent is due, utilities are creeping higher, and the price of even basic groceries feels like a punch to the gut. Some days I ask myself, how did buying a simple loaf of bread get this expensive? The economic environment isn't just a background noise, it's the main character in my story. The inflation headlines, the news about layoffs, the rising interest rates on my credit card, these aren't abstract concepts. They're very real, very present forces shaping every decision I make. When I think about spending money, it's no longer about enjoyment or convenience, it's about survival. Can I afford to buy lunch, or do I need to bring leftovers? Should I take the bus or split the cost of a ride? Every choice feels weighted with consequence. And it's not just the money. It's the emotional toll this constant pressure takes on me. There's this gnawing anxiety that settles in my chest, a quiet dread that if I slip up, if something unexpected happens, a car repair, a medical bill, an emergency trip home, I'll be sunk. I try not to talk about it much, because I don't want to burden my friends or family, but the truth is, I'm scared. Scared of being stuck in this cycle forever, scared of never breaking free. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a cage made of numbers. The system feels rigged, expenses keep climbing, yet incomes stay stagnant or grow at a snail's pace. It's like the world expects me to juggle flaming torches while walking a tightrope, blindfolded. There's no safety net, just the constant threat of falling. And no matter how many side gigs I take on or how many hours I clock at my day job, the weight doesn't lift. I've had to postpone so many things that once seemed like basic parts of my life. A vacation with friends, a new laptop to help with work, even routine dental care. It hurts more than I expected, this slow eroding of what I thought my life would be. I remember staring at travel blogs, imagining myself in far-off places, and realizing I'd rather save the money than chase that fleeting joy. That's a bitter pill to swallow. But I try to cope even if it's messy. I've started budgeting obsessively, tracking every dollar, which sometimes feels like a form of self-torture. I find little pockets of happiness in cooking cheap meals at home, finding second-hand clothes, or just walking through the park to clear my head. I reach out to friends when I can, even if it's just to vent, because isolation makes it harder to keep going. At night, when the apartment is quiet and the bills are still stacked on the kitchen counter, I let myself dream a little. I imagine a future where I'm not constantly stressed about money, where I have the freedom to take a day off without guilt, where I can invest in myself, in my passions, in a home that feels safe. I picture waking up without that tight knot in my stomach, breathing easy. But those dreams come with a heavy if attached, and sometimes that if feels too big to overcome. Despite it all, there's a stubborn flicker of hope inside me. I remind myself that this is a chapter, not the whole story. Maybe someday, when the economy shifts or I find a better path, things will change. Maybe the weight will lift, and I'll look back on this time with a mixture of relief and pride for having made it through. Until then, I carry on, grappling with the reality of living paycheck to paycheck, with the fear and frustration, but also with the quiet, persistent hope that I'm more than just my financial struggles. I'm someone who's still trying, still dreaming, still holding on. And maybe that's enough for now. It's like I'm always running, but never really moving forward. Every morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach that hasn't quite gone away in months, maybe years. I make my coffee, stare at my phone, and check my bank account. The numbers never seem to add up in my favor. They're always lower than I hoped, or the same as yesterday, while the bills stack up like an endless mountain I'll never climb. I'm 27, and if you asked me a few years ago where I thought I'd be now, I'd have a different story. I imagined being settled, maybe with a decent apartment, not fancy, just my own little space. A steady job that paid enough for me to cover rent, utilities, groceries, maybe even save a little. But life didn't work out that way. The economy shifted, prices soared, and somehow my paycheck stayed flat. It's like the world expects me to stretch every dollar until it tears. And that constant tearing is exhausting. Every day feels like a balancing act on a wire that's thinning. I take the bus instead of the subway because the fare is cheaper. I skip lunches or eat ramen far more times than I care to admit because fresh food costs more than I can afford. I cancel plans with friends because splitting a dinner or going out for drinks feels like a luxury I can't justify. It's not that I don't want to go out. I really do. But the thought of spending $20 on a night out, knowing I might need that money for an emergency or just to keep the lights on, makes me hesitate. Again and again. The rent, God, the rent. It creeps up every year. Landlords always find a reason. Maintenance costs, market adjustment, or the ever-popular "it's just the way things are." And I'm stuck signing the new lease because where else would I go? Finding affordable housing feels like chasing a mirage. Moving out to the suburbs means longer commutes and extra transportation costs. Staying close to work is a privilege I can't afford to lose, even if it means I'm paying for a closet-sized room with a leaky window. I work 2 jobs sometimes, just to keep afloat. One is the office gig I hoped would be my career starter, the other a part-time evening shift. It's not glamorous, and it's not fulfilling, but it pays the bills. Barely. There are months when I find myself having to choose between fixing my broken phone or buying groceries for the week. Phones are a lifeline these days. Without one, you're cut off from job postings, friends, and even emergency contacts. But food is survival. So, I put off the phone repair, hoping it'll last just a little longer. Emotionally, it's draining. I feel a constant pressure, a low-level anxiety that hums under everything I do. It's hard to sleep when you're worried about money. What if the car breaks down? What if an unexpected bill comes? What if I lose one of my jobs? Sometimes I catch myself holding my breath, waiting for the next bad thing to happen. It's like living on a fault line, peaceful one moment, disaster looming the next. And yet, I try to cope. I remind myself to breathe, to take one day at a time. I find small moments of joy where I can, reading a book borrowed from the library, walking in the park, calling my family. They don't understand exactly what I'm going through, but they listen. Sometimes that's enough. I've gotten better at budgeting, using apps to track every penny, clipping coupons, and hunting for sales. It feels like a never-ending game of survival, and honestly, it wears me down. I've had to postpone so many dreams. Traveling the world? Forget it. Even a weekend getaway feels like an impossible luxury. Going back to school to improve my skills and get a better paying job? I can't afford the tuition or the lost income from quitting my current jobs. Saving for a home? That feels like a fantasy story people tell each other but never actually live. I see friends buying new cars, going on vacations, or moving into their own places, and I'm happy for them, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm stuck on the sidelines. Sometimes, late at night, I let myself imagine a different future, one where I'm not so afraid of bills, where I can breathe without the weight of money pressing down on my chest. A future where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. I think about starting my own business, or finding a job that pays what I'm worth, or even just having enough to help my family when they need it. But those thoughts feel fragile, easily shattered by reality. I'm caught in a system that feels designed to keep me running in place. The cost of living keeps rising, wages lag behind, and there's little safety net to catch me if I fall. It's hard not to feel invisible, like just another cog in a machine that values profit over people. I wish more people understood how relentless this pressure is, how it shapes every choice, every thought, every dream deferred. Still, I hold on to hope. Not the kind that comes from fairy tales or sudden windfalls, but the quiet, stubborn hope that if I keep pushing, keep making smart choices, eventually things will get better. I remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance, more than my paycheck, more than my struggles. I have worth and potential that money can't measure. And maybe someday, when the weight lifts just a little, I'll look back at this time and see it as the chapter where I learned how strong I really am. For now, though, I keep moving forward, step by step, with a heart full of cautious hope and a mind determined not to give up. Because what else can I do? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.